What do you get when you combine a cute and cozy graphic style, game mechanics similar to Papers, Please, a fairy tale setting and some dark humor? You get this game. Lil Guardsman is a point-and-click, story-rich game where you play as a 12-year-old covering for her dad as the guard on the gate. In this video, I'm going to be grinding this game down, giving it a full review and ranking it from decaf to fully caffeinated. Without further ado, let's grind this game down and see how it brews. Lil Guardsman is set in a magical kingdom with a cute fairy tale vibe, and a host of magical and some ordinary creatures that all want to gain access to the city, or as it's commonly known, the Sprawl. You'll play as Lil, a 12-year-old roped into guard duty to cover for her dad while he gambles his paycheck away on sports. You'll meet a host of characters as you perform your gate guarding duty, including the 3 people attempting to pull the strings of the kingdom, a scientist who somehow decides it's a good idea to entrust a 12-year-old with a time-traveling device, and a range of other quirky characters who all have different motives for entering the city. From the moment you enter the Lil Guardsman world, you're treated to a fully narrated and magical storyline with a decent share of twists and turns that will have you questioning every decision you make. The story of Lil Guardsman is kind of like an ogre. It has a lot of layers. There's individual stories for each of the characters that attempt to pass through your gate, as well as a whole overarching story too, and with more potential villains than most people have fingers, the story of this game is definitely one that will keep you on your toes. There's a few reasons why I particularly love the story in this game. Firstly, the humor in this story is truly next level. I don't think I've laughed this much playing a game in a while, and that's a true testament to how well the game is written. There's a lot of playing into different stereotypes, sarcastic and relatable humor, and a whole bunch of didn't see that coming shock value moments, which in my opinion is a great mix. Secondly, the detail in the story is incredible. I absolutely loved the recaps at the end of each level, telling you what each of the characters got up to and what the consequences of allowing or denying them access to the Sprawl were. The detailed epilogues were probably one of the highlights of the game for me, and I found myself rushing to go to bed in the game so I could find out what happened. Overall, the story and world building of Lil Guardsman is detailed, magical, and hilarious. It has such a unique take on some of the familiar fairy tale storylines and keeps you guessing with so many unexpected and often brutal plot points. This is a game that has been expertly written, so for story and world building, I'm rating Lil Guardsman as fully caffeinated. Lil Guardsman has some pretty solid game mechanics. The game at its core is a point-and-click choose-your-own-adventure game. There's a whole lot of story elements that make up a decent chunk of the gameplay, but there's some crucial choices you need to make that have an effect on the overall game and story. The gatekeeping part of the game requires you to figure out whether to allow or deny someone access to the city, and there's a few different options for you to use to collect information that will help you make your decision. You get 3 action points per turn that you can spend on whichever actions you like. You'll be able to interrogate the would-be passer for 1 action point, asking them for more details about why they've come to the city, and you can choose whether or not you believe what they've told you with the trust, tease, and doubt functions. Alongside interrogation, you've also got a toolbox full of goodies you can utilize to determine if someone's story checks out. Each tool uses 1 action point and needs to be powered by a magic crystal, and there's 2 different types of said crystals. The pink ones that are guaranteed to work, or the yellow ones which come in at a cheaper price point but also have a lower success rate. You've got 5 different tools you can use: truth spray, a decoder ring, an x-ray machine, a metal detector, and a bullwhip. Yes, you did hear that right. Each tool reaps different results, but using the wrong one can sometimes backfire or just not give you any information at all, so you need to be careful about how you use them. And lastly, you also have a phone a friend option, but in this case, they're not really friends. You can phone Councilwoman Ash, Lieutenant Striker, or the Jester Malcolm. Each level or day has a different royal writ, which gives you some information about specific requirements for the level, some of which will give you instructions to call a particular advisor, and often you can get a bonus for following the instructions listed too. Once you've finished up using your action points, you can choose to admit or deny the one trying to gain access, and the choice you make can sometimes have deadly consequences, so make sure you choose wisely. Outside of the level gameplay, there's extra areas you can visit to progress the story, and of course you also have a shop where you can buy upgrades and extra crystals too. Early on in the game, you'll visit one of these bonus locations and be given a time machine that you can use to rewind the level if you muck it up, which is a pretty cool way to add in a realistic kind of rewind function. Will using the time machine have consequences later on? Well, you'll have to keep playing to see. Overall, the mechanics of Lil Guardsman are well executed, creating a game that is fun to play. I did have the game crash once through my playthrough, but other than that, I didn't have any bugs. The point and click functions are done really well, and the game feels pretty fun to play. So for game mechanics, I'm rating Lil Guardsman as juiced. Lil Guardsman has a really cute and colourful graphic design style. And not only is the design amazing, but it's also really detailed. There's over 100 different characters in the game, and each one has a unique design that is so incredible. The graphic style does an amazing job of conveying the magical fairy tale world, and the UI is really functional and accessible. The sound design of the game is phenomenal. Each of the 100+ characters is fully voice acted, and each one sounds so unique, which in and of itself is a huge undertaking. But add in the comedic timing, all the drama, and the singing. Oh.
Afternoon, I've traveled from afar, a simple girl who wished upon a star. Inside this castle lies my fate, perhaps I'll even to my old life I sing au revoir.
And honestly, the production value of this game is mind-blowing. The soundtrack you play to is completely original and can be purchased, FYI, and creates the perfect atmosphere to deny people's hopes and dreams to. Each track has been carefully written to truly elevate each part of the story, and with the addition of sound effects and the voice acting, this game is honestly a fantasy lover's dream. As someone who reads a lot, I was completely in love with how the storyline is presented, and I take my hat off to the devs for how well put together the game is. For graphic and sound design, it probably comes as no surprise that I'm rating Lil Guardsman as fully caffeinated. Lil Guardsman definitely carves out its own place in the gaming space. It does have elements similar to games like Papers, Please or Night in the Woods, but takes a whole different spin on the core concepts, making it feel really unique. The fairy tale spin on the point and click mechanics makes the game feel innovative and definitely brings a more cozy vibe, even though arguably the story is not at all cozy. This is a game that definitely stands on its own legs and is difficult to compare to others with similar themes. So for originality, I'm rating Lil Guardsman as juiced. Lil Guardsman is a fun and quirky game that could be described as the cozy version of Papers, Please, but in reality is so much more. The story is absolutely hilarious, adding so many dark twists and turns that really keep you questioning your decisions, and the graphic and sound design is phenomenal and sits at a much higher quality than you'd expect for a game at this price point. We've ground the beans, we've carefully weighed and pressed the grinds and brewed this game down. Now it's time for a taste test. Lil Guardsman is fully caffeinated. Lil Guardsman is available to purchase on Steam, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation and Xbox now. You can find the Steam link in the description below. And if you're still on the fence about whether or not this game is for you, you can watch me play through the first few levels right here. Until next time, stay caffeinated.